Jeff, this week's Lost and Found.
Two fathers meet up when their kids are diagnosed with leukaemia. It's a bittersweet story. These two fellas, their lives go in very different directions after the diagnosis, but we bring them back together, and it's very moving. Have a look.
Great.
"30 years ago, Jack Kasses was told his 6-year-old daughter Helen had leukaemia.
We were absolutely devastated. I mean, she really was becoming quite listless and very, very sick. And in fact, it appeared like, she was almost lifeless. And as I looked around, I could see that most of the other families that were attending the hospital were also faced with the prospect of losing their child.
One of those other parents was John Lough, whose 2-year-old son Robbie was diagnosed with the disease in the same week.
It was horrific, really. The initial shock was quite severe. The statistics weren't good. I think 20% of the children that had leukaemia managed to survive, whilst the other 80% didn't.
In the 1970s, not only were the statistics daunting, but very little research was being conducted. So Jack and John decided someone had to do something to help. Together, they set up the Children's Leukaemia and Cancer Foundation to raise money for a research centre.
If we could just give these doctors the money and this magnificent laboratory to do all this research in, that this would probably be the turning point in the survival rate of children with cancer. And that is the driving force. John and I would talk about it and say, we've got to get these doctors some help.
A full year of fundraising produced only $4,000. However, both were members of Apex, and with an advertising strategy generously devised by guru John Singleton, the Service Club agreed to back a national campaign.
Just before Apex had announced that they were going to approve the launching of this national campaign, John's son Robbie passed away. So John and I were so determined because of that and because of all the other children that we were still not saving to actually make this campaign the greatest campaign that Apex had ever launched.
The campaign involved more than 800 clubs and 18,000 members. Their aim was to raise $1 million, and within a year, they'd done it. The money was put to use straight away, and a few years later, the centre was opened.
And it was just the most moving moment in John and my life when Darcy O'Gorman here said, I'd like all the children that we've saved in the last 6 years to please stand. And in this huge audience, the Premier was there, and all the dignitaries, 130 children stood up. And that's how we felt. We just felt that it was all worthwhile. We were engaged to get married.
Jack's daughter Helen was one of those who survived. Today, the Children's Cancer Institute of Australia has grown into a world-class facility, and survival rates, well, they're closer to 70%, not 20%. And now Jack's about to attend the announcement of a new $100 million facility. But it just wouldn't be the same without John, who stood down from the foundation once it started operating. Since then, they've lost touch.
To be there with John on that day is the full circle. It's the completion of what we both wanted to do together those 30 years ago.
John's phone number wasn't listed, but with the Institute's help and using public records in Queensland, we located him on the Sunshine Coast. Now, he's very keen to join Jack in Sydney for the announcement.
When I attend the opening, it'll be quite rewarding, I think. I'll feel very happy in myself that the achievements that the foundation has accomplished over the years and this new step forward. I'll feel good about seeing Jack and old friends again that were involved in the foundation, and I think it's come a long, long way.
There'll be a lot of excitement, and I think there'll be a lot of coming home. John's come home because he's been away from us for too long.
Jack.
G'day, mate.
How are you?
Give us a hand.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. You too.
Hey,
oh, John.
Hey, man.
Oh, great. It's lovely to see you.
To inaugurate what will be, no doubt, one of the finest research centres in the world.
Together with the dignitaries, the donors and the turning of the sod is a special presentation arranged for Jack and John to mark their contribution.
Without you, Jack, and without you, John, quite simply, our institute would not exist. Your vision continues to lead and inspire us, and we thank you for what you have done.
Thank you very much for this token. I accept it very proudly. I accept it indeed as in memory of my son Robbie, which is really how this all started, with Jack and I together. And as Jack and I discussed earlier this morning, that in promoting this as a service scheme through Apex, we adopted the slogan of "Some kids make it, some kids don't. Help a kid make it." And really, Jack and I are the story of the some kids make it and some kids don't. Mine didn't, and Jack's lovely daughter Helen did. And the aim of it was to get to the point where all kids make it. And I think today's ceremony will take us a long way to achieve that goal. Thank you.
Part of it is tears of joy, and part of it is tears of sadness. And I guess, you know, I've been talking about this now for 30 years, and I still get emotional. I just want to say how intensely proud I am today of you all and of you.
Thanks, Jack.
It's okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it is. In early days, only 3 out of 10 kids with that kind of leukaemia survived. Today, the survival rate is 8 out of 10, and much of that really is due to the great work of people like Jack and John.
Brilliant. Thank you, team.